Hello and welcome to this edition of the Simsbury Woman. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so pleased today to have a guest with us. This is Elaine Titus. She represents GMO-Free Connecticut. She is the Director of Education for GMO-Free Connecticut and a holistic health counselor. And today we're going to be speaking about GMOs, the GMO-free movement, what GMOs are and how they are affecting our food supply. And I think this is a really important discussion for all of us to really take stock of. So thank you so much for joining us today, Elaine.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So first of all, GMOs, what are they?
GMOs they're created in a science lab, first of all. They take a seed or a plant and they insert the genetic material from another organism like a virus or bacteria into it. So it creates a totally novel organism. And they're basically taking genes from one species and crossing them with another. And that would never occur in nature.
So genetically modified, the O is for?
Organisms.
That's what
Yes.
I thought. Okay. And so we're seeing this now in the news a lot lately. Mm-hmm. There's been a movement nationally, there's been a movement in Connecticut to look at our food supply and look at the contents of our food supply. What GMOs are in our food supplies now? Talk to me about what that means.
Right now, you have there are several crops that are genetically modified, and it's virtually 85 to 90% for most of them. It's corn, soy, cottonseed, canola, and sugar beets. And sugar beets is about 50%, and that is, when you look at a label, that's sugar, not cane sugar. It's sugar, so that's genetically modified. There is some zucchini and some yellow squash as well. Hawaiian papaya is 100% genetically modified.
Wow.
And 70 to 80% of the foods in our supermarket that are processed, that are in a package, are genetically modified. And there's no labeling, so people don't know that they're eating it.
Well, that's two parts of my next question. So first of all, we may think we're eating healthy and we're making healthy choices, but we are in fact making choices of foods that are not pure. They're not in their pure form. They are modified and then containing chemicals, or is the chemicals part of the process of modifying them?
Well, there are two types. There's the herbicide tolerant type, and that's called Roundup Ready. So the plant can be sprayed with like massive amounts of this herbicide Roundup, and the plant doesn't die, but all the plants around it die. So all the weeds die. And then the other type is the BT, or the Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a toxic pesticide. So the plant that has that injected into it actually becomes a pesticide. And the main crop that they use that in is corn. So it's called BT corn. And it's designed so that it kills the corn rootworm when it eats it. So if a corn rootworm eats it, its stomach explodes, and that's how it works, and it becomes a pesticide. So every molecule, every cell, every kernel of that corn is a pesticide.
This is alarming. This is an alarming trend.
True.
It begs the question, what does this do to our bodies?
Well, from research has shown that that it causes damage to our gut flora. And we've been told, well, it doesn't stay in your body, but there have been studies that have shown that there is actually these toxins, these GMOs, in the fetuses of unborn babies.
Wow.
So it's, in my opinion, and from research, it's destroying the intestinal gut flora and causing a lot of collateral damage.
And as you and I have talked about, and I have been learning a lot about, that the gut is kind of the center of our body from a holistic point of view. And so when our gut is weakened, there is perhaps or potentially an autoimmune response.
Absolutely.
And so what are we seeing as a result of this?
Well, we're seeing huge increases in ADHD, autoimmune disorder, The CDC just came out with a report saying that 1 in 20 kids now have food allergies, and the increases are just tremendous. 300, 400% increases, a 1,500%, as you know, increase in autism. So we're seeing these tremendous increases in these autoimmune diseases.
So then, what do we do? I know you have been actively working legislatively to address labeling of GMOs. So when we go into the store and we see this produce and we want to make a good choice about what we're eating, we are actually able to know what the contents of our food is. And so last year that you were part of an initiative at the legislature to push for GMO labeling, and that initiative was not passed.
Correct.
So then, as all good advocates do, you went back again this year.
We're
And
relentless.
yes, you have to
We're
be.
not giving up on this because we can't.
No, you can't.
It's the future of our planet.
So where are we this year? What's going on with labeling this year?
This year, we have 2 bills. One is HB 6519, and we have, which is for produce and processed food, and then HB 6527, which is the bill that will label baby food. Both bills passed almost unanimously for the public health bill. The HB 6519, the general bill, passed 23-4, and the baby bill passed 21-3 through the Public Health Committee. We spent an entire year, and that whole year that before this legislative session started, we spent an entire year with the Legislative Task Force educating the legislature on the GMOs, the constitutionality of the law, the research, all the issues related to GMOs. We brought in experts from around the country to talk about it. So right now we're at the point where we're actually, I would personally say we're stalled, because the leadership in our state government right now is not supporting the bill, despite the grassroots efforts and the grassroots support and the support of our legislators. The governor, the Speaker of the House, and the leadership of some of the major committees are not supporting the bill. So we're kind of stalled at this point.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
Yes.
As you see this issue looming down the road, I'm sure. It's incredibly frustrating to be in a position of not being able to fix it. And let's go back for a second, because baby food labeling. Tell me what that bill is, and tell me what baby food labeling would entitle. What is in our baby food?
Well, a lot of the baby food has soy. A lot of people, because they want to eat healthy, they're thinking, well, I'm going to give, or they have a milk allergy. So they have a milk allergy, so they start eating the soy milk, like I gave my daughters unknowingly. And I'm hoping, I can't even remember if I gave them organic, but the soy products are all genetically modified virtually. So it would label that, so they would know. And many of the government programs, like the WIC program, they have the powdered milks. Those all have corn syrup and other products, derivatives. There are hundreds of derivatives of these GMOs. So it's not even the main crops. There are derivatives, and those derivatives are in all those baby foods that are actually being given out by the government.
So we have no idea. If there's derivative upon derivative, we have no idea what the content is.
Hundreds.
Wow. Okay, and just to clarify, you touched on it a little bit, but there's a movement about eating organically, which is different from eating not genetically modified foods. So can you make a distinction between those two things?
Yeah, well, I'll just give you a little history. I think the whole organic movement started because in the mid-1990s, that's really when it started, in the last 20 years, and that's when these GMOs first came into the marketplace. And as an alternative to eating GMOs, people who were knowledgeable and who knew, that were in the health community, knew, just innately knew this was not a good thing. So people started eating organic, and that's the way to avoid these products. If you eat corn, soy, cottonseed, canola, or sugar beets, they really should be organic. This whole system, these companies are basically trying to control the food supply. These companies are the same companies, they're chemical companies. These are not food companies that are creating the food that we're eating. They're the same companies that they told us PCBs were safe and DDT was safe. They're the companies that introduced chlorofluorocarbons and destroyed the ozone layer. They are the ones that came out with Agent Orange, and they just deforested the the trees and the forests of Vietnam. These companies, they're the ones with created PCBs that had the mercury in the oceans. So it's sort of a battle for the purity of our food supply.
Right.
They're actually trying to control the food supply. Right now, they own over 50% of the seeds.
Wow.
And they're continuing to do more. They're buying more seed companies, and they basically want to genetically modify the entire world. It's not just stopping here. Like right now, you're like, oh, well, maybe I can avoid, I'm going to eat more whole foods. I'm going to shop in the natural food section. I'm going to look for I'm going to buy, or if it's processed, I'm going to buy organic, or I'm going to buy non-GMO Project Verified, which has a little butterfly on it, and they've been tested to show that they have no GMOs. So you're gonna look for that. Those are the ways to avoid it. But we're at a tipping point, and if people don't start getting involved in this issue and start making a stand, we're going to have genetically modified salmon. There's a huge push for health push for people to eat genetically modified, not genetically modified, but salmon, because it's healthier for you. But now they're going to genetically modify one of the healthiest foods that we've been eating. They're actually going to take, just so you can know what they're doing with this cross transgenic process, they're going to take the Atlantic salmon, they're going to mix it with the Chinook salmon, and they're going to mix that with a pout, an ocean pout, which is actually an eel. So 3 different species that would never mate in nature are going to be mixed together. So they're going to be these gene transfers, and the collateral damage is just,
we have no idea.
We have no clue how that's going to happen. So.
Wow. That's powerful.
Very powerful.
Tell me, if you can, what other states are doing as far as GMOs.
There are 37 other states that are in our coalition. Basically, in the last year, we've been working with a coalition of states to get labeling. And many of the states in the Northeast are working on labeling, including Maine, Vermont. Vermont has been working on it for a while. New Hampshire has a labeling bill. Massachusetts actually has 5 bills that are in the legislature right now. So there's a huge amount of activity to get these bills passed.
So this is really an opportunity. I mean, this is a regional issue. This is a national issue. So we have some opportunity here in the Northeast to really set the standard and to really be the benchmark leaders for this initiative.
Absolutely. We need to, we need to be the benchmark. We need to take a stand, because if we don't, everything will be genetically modified, and we won't even have access, because as someone pointed out early this morning, there's cross-pollination. So if this is and actually Monsanto, one of the chemical companies, is suing farmers because the pollen from let's say you have the soy plant, and you have soy here, GMO soy, and then non-GMO soy. If the GMO soy, the pollen just flies in the air, as we all know about pollen flying in the air and getting allergies, flies over and GMO, it goes into their non-GMO field, the Monsanto is actually suing the farmers who grow non-GMO and don't use their seeds. The pollen is going into their fields, and Monsanto is suing those farmers for patent infringement, because all of these seeds are patented, and that's their goal. Their goal is to patent every single seed and every single plant, and now they're going to patent animals.
Wow. Okay. My next question was actually
It is disturbing. I
is.
understand your response, because it's very disturbing, and that's why I'm so passionate about this issue.
And thank you for being passionate about it, and thank you for speaking up about it. But that's my next question. What about the farming industry? What about the agricultural, farmers who this is their livelihood? What happens there?
Well, the whole food supply has changed. Like it's basically big ag now.
Yes.
And it's all owned by corporations. So these corporations they're actually running the farms too. So the small farmers are being edged out. And I believe there are only 10% of the crops on the planet are organic at this time. And so the move is to at least create boundaries, between the GMO and the organic, and create more organic or non-GMO. That's the goal.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you again for being a voice for this, because I can sense your passion, and I think that that is going to drive change. And we will, if you'd like to share what a website is where people can get more information, we can put that up on the screen as well. So if you have that up.
Oh, that would be great. My organization is GMO Free Connecticut, and the website is www.gmofreect.org. And if you go to our website, we have, you can sign up to get our email list, and you can get emails about all the actions that we're having. We also have a Facebook page, so you would go to www.facebook.com/GMOFreeCT, and we post everything there. So any events that are coming up, you'll know about in your area. And also, if you want to learn more about it, then you can contact us as well through those sites.
Speaking of events, what do you have coming up in Connecticut? Anything on the horizon that people can get involved with?
Yes, we have a rally coming up Tuesday, May 21st from 11 to 1, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be right outside the Capitol on the side facing Bushnell Park, and there'll be a rally and then a GMO-free food tasting. So we're going to have a lot of chefs come and local food producers come and share all their products with us, the GMO-free products. And it's a great opportunity to come for some advocacy work too, because during that time, you'll be able to go into the legislature and ask to talk to your legislator face to face, which is the best way to make change.
There is. It's always very important to put a face with a name on any issue. And I think, to your point about having a GMO-free tasting event, I think there's so much education that needs to be done. People don't understand what GMO-free, free food might taste like. So I think that's a great opportunity to really put a tangible there.
Absolutely.
So well done.
Thank you very much.
What are some of the other important initiatives that you see on the horizon as far as this issue goes?
I think our organization really is dedicated to education. So we've been going around the state for the past year doing movie screenings, talks to libraries, churches, Daughters of the American Revolution, different groups and organizations. So if people want to get involved or people want more information, they can call us and contact us, and we can come to a showing or come to a talk in their area. So more education, and hopefully the bill will pass. If people call their legislator, all they have to do is call their legislator, ask them to be a co-sponsor of the bill, and they will get, if we get this passed this year, then we'll have labeling, and we're going to continue to do education, because people, even if it's on the label, people still are going to need to know what it is and the difference between this product and that product. There's a lot of education.
Absolutely. And part of that education can be research.
Absolutely.
What is going on the research front?
On the research front, well, in terms of research, there really has been no long-term, up until recently, there was no long-term research done on this, on these GMOs. They were, because many people would say, well, the government wouldn't let these products be in the food supply if they weren't safe, if they weren't safe. Well, that's actually not true, because the FDA approved these products and gave them GRAS status or GRAS status, which means they're generally regarded as safe. And to be generally regarded as safe, it has to be, number one, in the food supply for so long that there's no question that these products are safe.
Over a generation.
Over generations and hundreds of years. Or two, that there has been science done on it, and the scientific community agrees that these products are safe. Well, that wasn't true, because we found out through a lawsuit, there were 44,000 documents released that showed that the FDA's own scientists wanted more studies done, and they thought there could be health risks, and they wanted to see human studies and long-term testing. So they were actually approved by the FDA illegally. And one of the reasons, and you'd say, how does that happen? Well, how does that happen? It happens because the biotech industry and the government have a revolving door. And Michael Taylor, who's the food safety czar right now in America, was actually the one who drafted the legislation when he worked for Monsanto. Then he went into the FDA, was the food policy commissioner, approved the GRAS status, and then left again to work at Monsanto as the vice president. So you're basically having Monsanto, the chicken guarding, the fox guarding the hen house.
Interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, your passion comes through with what you're speaking of. So what is your personal involvement? Often with advocacy, there is some personal kickstart to how you get involved. So what did it for you?
Well, Like yourself, I thought I was eating healthy. I mean, I didn't really eat a lot of processed foods. We did a lot of home cooking. But my daughters, I have a teenage daughter and a college-age daughter, and they started having health issues. And they were having gastrointestinal issues, and allergy issues, food allergy issues. So we started eliminating gluten, and we eliminated dairy. I mean, this was a year-long process of elimination. Well, we couldn't, it didn't resolve it. So about a year and a half ago, I found out about GMOs and eliminated those from our diets, and the health issues went away.
Now, was this something that you brought to the attention of a doctor, or did you go to a holistic counselor, or how did that evolve? Because that's an important piece of the process.
Unfortunately, the doctors really, other than the Academy of Environmental Medicine does actually advocate non-GMO diets for their patients, but the American Medical Association doesn't really have a firm stance on GMOs. So in terms of learning about it, I learned about it on my own, and I did have a holistic health counselor who was helping me through the process of doing all this investigation, and then I was taking my own degree as a holistic health counselor. So in terms of learning about it, it's the organizations like GMO-Free CT or doing your own independent research on how you find out about it. So we need to get more education, even to doctors.
Right. So education, again,
huge, is
at the root of this movement. And what about the foods that we're seeing in our school systems as well? Our lunches that our kids are eating.
Well, that's a difficult topic because the foods that are in our food system are supported. They're given grants and funding by the government. So, and they're all based on all these products: the corn, the soy, the cottonseed, the canola, and the sugar beet. So, the foods in the public school system, unfortunately, are just pretty much all GMO.
So, really, a pervasive.
It's
issue.
Very pervasive, yes, because it's in 80% of the processed foods, and most of the foods that they're using, they're not cooking from scratch anymore. They've cut down on their employees, so they're all using packaged foods. Everything's frozen, everything's packaged.
Right.
So
now we've talked about what's happening locally. We've talked about what's happening nationally. What about other countries throughout the world? Where do other, invested parties stand on GMOs?
Well, we're one of the only civilized countries that doesn't have labeling. So 62 other countries have labeling of GMOs, and there are actually 27 countries that have banned GMOs.
Wow.
So we're one of the only countries that doesn't have labeling, and I think that's very telling.
Has there been a movement through your organization to engage with those countries? I imagine there has been, and to bring some of that information here?
Well, you had asked about the research study, and I didn't get a chance to tell you, but there is one long-term study that just came out in the last year while I've been working on this project. And it was a study done in France by Professor Seralini, and he did a long-term study on rats, the only one ever done. He fed them GMOs for 2 years, and what they found was early death, gastrointestinal problems, and huge amounts of cancer, and particularly breast cancer. So the only study the long-term study that's ever been done has shown, international study has shown severe problems with the food.
Fascinating. All right, we're going to start wrapping up here, but if there was, say, one important point that you wanted to get across to the audience, especially here in our small community of Simsbury, what can we do? What should we do from an advocacy perspective? What can we do from addressing our own food supplies and what we bring into our homes?
I would say the main thing that people can do is eat whole foods, because if you're eating whole foods, the only thing that's whole that you would be eating that's GMO would be corn and soy. So it'd be pretty easy to just, if you're buying corn or soy, to eat those organic. So I would basically say eat whole foods. If you're going to buy processed foods, shop in the health section of your supermarket. Just remember how before they said shop on the outside of the supermarket. Keep shopping on the outside of the aisles and go into your health food section. Look for the non-GMO Project Verified.
The butterfly.
The little orange butterfly, yes.
Okay.
And there are thousands of products now and that's the fastest growing segment in the market right now, because so many people are having health issues and want to avoid these GMOs. And then also, too, another thing is do organic, the organic label.
Okay, and if people, again, are interested in getting involved in the grassroots movement to try to move labeling forward, both here in Connecticut and on a national level, they should go to your website.
Yes, and then they can find their legislator right from there. Our legislator here, John Hampton in Simsbury, has co-sponsored the bill, 6519. But you can also call the senator, our senator, and you can call the governor and the Speaker of the House as well. You can write letters to them as well. And that's a way to and make meetings if you can.
Okay, and on that website, is there information about examples of GMO-free foods?
The best place to go for that is the non-GMOshoppingguide.com.
Okay.
And there you can download a shopping guide that will show you all the products that are non-GMO that you can buy. They'll give you the brand names and tell you which ones are the best ones to buy, and you can download it right there.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Thank you for your advocacy. I know how challenging it can be at times, frustrating it can be at times,
Yes.
but keep talking and keep making your voice heard, and it will make a difference. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Shannon.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us again on the Simsbury Woman. We will see you again next month.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.